Hello everybody, my name is Séverine Herman and I would like to apologize first for not being present in person at the conference. Samia Benvaje Benhai, we are both architects and we are working at the Faculty of Engineering from Brussels. Thank you very much for listening to our lecture entitled Using Design Competition Calls in a Design Studio course. Please do not hesitate to send us any questions by email or just leave a comment on the YouTube channel from the event. We would like to start first by a citation from Wiener, who said, "If architectural education could have one clear goal, it should be to educate and sustain the next generation of talent to have a sympathetic awareness of its origins." We believe indeed on the importance of the educational system to sustain the generation of architects finding and working with their roots. That's why we are working in our design studio with the 4 main models of architectural skills acquisition. Coming back to the origin of the design studio course, the acquisition of the necessary skills that a student should acquire in architecture pass by first learning by watching, learning by imitating, learning by education, and learning by doing. These 4 main models of skills acquisition are interacting with each other and also with other external factors than the studio. For instance, Tadahando stressed out the importance that the relationship of the design process may be undertaken at both the design studio and the outdoor environment. However, learning by doing in the design studio is built by the educators who give a project to the student and require specific attention. All these skills need to be taught and experimented in order to enable students to acquire a critical design. Architects have to be conscious about the context in which they operate, but also to acquire a critical thinking. This is the part of subjectivity and alternative forms of knowledge. And it's important that network learning pedagogy, which allows students to incorporate the necessary skills of collaboration. Even if the design studio-based learning is an educational model which has its roots that back to the 30s with the École des Beaux-Arts, it's remained that the scholars highlighted 5 main criticisms which need to be addressed in the future of architectural education curricula. First of all, the focus of the studio is still primarily on the final product rather than on the process. Second one, the atelier relies on an overemphasis on the teacher, which can limit sometimes students' learning. Thirdly, the learning activities do not take place in the real professional environment, and there is often a lack of link with the professional practice despite the collaboration with specialists. Fourthly, in practice, architects need to navigate the myriad of regulations, answer environmental, economic and social needs, which is not the case in the studio. And last criticisms that we can highlight from the literature review is that the student can end up isolated in the studio. Thus, we conceptualize our understanding of the problem in order to understand this duality between practice and education in architecture and link them better. Taking into account the practice of architecture focused on design competition and the education of architecture focused on design studio, which have an impact on each other, the critical design thinking are the elements which link them better through the process of learning, sharing, giving, and receiving, which create an integration of strategies, use references, cases, through the process of creation from education to practice and from practice to education. This scheme represents our teaching objective, which are in the meeting point between the societal concerns and the professional demand. Our objective in our design studio is to train and prepare learners to deal with this complexity, the complexity of the professional demand, but also the complexity of the societal concerns, by the learning by doing. We aim to develop the soft skills of our students, to develop the critical thinking through active pedagogy, but also to integrate theoretical learnings into the project. Thus, our research question is, what kind of projects should we design for our students in order to integrate social, environmental, and economic changes into the process of learning by doing, whilst at the same time valorizing the knowledge acquired in the curriculum? In order to answer to our question, we worked with our student from Civil Engineer Architect of third year study in the integration of these new challenges in the studio through the participation of a design competition. And we evaluate the outcome over 2 years through student evaluation survey, and we will show you in the next slides the results of this evaluation. For the general context of the case study, we are based in Brussels in the Faculty of Engineering, and our students obtained a double degree, engineers and architect. We are about 16 students over these 2 years of analysis in the Architectural Design Studio course. We answered to 5 design competition projects, and we are 3 instructors in the Design Studio course itself. This is, for example, the document that we gave to our students, and they are the real documents that were used during the design competition of a brewery in Brussels. They did this design competition in parallel with the practitioners, and they had almost the same jury members in the end of the semester. In order to address the general problem highlighted in the literature review about the Design Studio course, we developed and implemented 9 solutions in our studio. The intervention by external experts, the self-evaluation, the respect of the design competition rules, the training in graphic and oral communication, jury members from multiple disciplines, the exhibition, peer evaluation, environmental awareness embedded in the project, and integration of theoretical learnings. This solution had the objective to encourage students to integrate expert point of view into the project, to focus on the design process as much as the final object, plus develop a collaborative strategy, to develop a better understanding of the public market, to develop skills in communication, argumentation, task management, and display presentation, to engage with different professionals who are also participating in the same design competition, to collaborate in a project team, to reflect on learning and design processes, to meet sustainable development requirements, and also to develop a common repository accessible to students in their future practice. We built a questionnaire to assess the results of our exercises inside the design studio. So the time frame were 2 years. We had about 8 to 16 students, and we conduct semi-structured interview. The results that we obtain out of our questionnaire are quite positive regarding the use of a real design competition called in the Design Studio course. Indeed, most of the students finding very interesting, and they agree about the fact that the exercises were useful to understand the complexity of the public market. They also agree on the fact that the activities helped them to include the concept of sustainability into the design process. They are also quite positive regarding the fact that the activities helped them to submit the first response to a call for proposal. And also they really agree on the external expert helped to create a better understanding of the subject and build and share knowledge. However, they are a little bit reserved regarding the workload and time frame which were appropriate to answer to the design competition. What we think is that we have 1 day of design studio course in our curricula in the Faculty of Engineering, which doesn't allow us to properly answer from A to Z to a design competition course, and it's really demanding for the students. We saw in the previous results that they really appreciate the reviewing and correcting of the project with different experts, and we found that in this answer again, as well as the sustainability complement embedded in the project since the beginning. However, what we didn't see previously is like the positive agreement on the communication coaching and construction of speech for the final presentation of the project. They all agree about the fact that using a design competition call helped them to have a better communication coaching and construction of the speech for the presentation in the jury. They are also quite all agree on the fact that the self-evaluation assessment sheet that we proposed them to fill up in the beginning of each design studio were not really useful in the studio itself. So it's something that we have to improve and work with it. However, the peer evaluation is something that we will keep for the future design studio that we will teach. In the end, we asked to our students to classify from 1 to 4 the skills that they think they have developed the most during this design studio course. And surprisingly, the first skills that they think that they have developed the most is the understanding and complying with the requirement of a real-life design competition. While the last one is addressing environmental and urban requirements. For them, in second position, they developed the soft skill, communication and collaboration, and in the third position only, they developed their architecture and technical skills, as well as their critical thinking. So we were a little bit surprised with this result, since developing their architectural and technical skills, as well as addressing environmental urban qualities, were our first goal, and we really thought that they would have tell it as really skills that they gain using a design competition call. But what they saw first is really like the understanding and the compelling us the requirement of design and the development of soft skills, really. Coming back to the general problem highlighted in the design studio course, according to the student, taking design competition course as the basis of our design studio course allow us to encourage the development of soft skills, communication, developing an argument, prioritizing tasks, and teamwork. Allow us as well to understand and comply with the professional requirements for an integrated design project, the public market, the complexity and constraints of the urban context, the evaluation project, the divergence of point of view between the experts. Allow us as well to build a common repository and develop architectural and technical skills as well as critical thinking, and integrate societal concern for design, which is respectful of the environment. So, our conclusions are that the design competitions are a unique opportunity in architecture design studio course to supply material for students' portfolio, build up a common repository of guidelines, example safety, disabled access, etc., challenge architects and students to work together on complex integrated projects, develop skills in architectural argumentation and communication, and develop collaboration. However, we are aware about the limit of a design competition. The specification defined a task extremely underdetermined, and the team of architects completed with host of new design premises and conclusion about the client's intention, the needs of the user, the architectural preferences of the user or the jury. But as well, one of the limitations of design competition is regarding the assessment criteria. The juries face an overdetermined task of selecting only one winner from design proposal that differ in multiple dimensions and criteria. So that's why we took design competition our basis for our design studio course, but we work on these two aspects to improve it for our design teaching. Thank you very much for listening to us, and feel free to ask questions by email or YouTube comments.